Hello.
Hello.
And we've already
Hello.
got a comment.
We already have a
Yeah.
comment from somebody called Better Days. Hello to you too. Welcome. Welcome everyone and anyone. We'll chat for a minute and let people sign on. Please feel free to type in the chat or the comments that you're here. Say hello. Say how are you? Happy New Year. Mazel tov. Shalom. Aloha. Ayibobo. There you go. Deborah wrote in. Hello,
Hello.
ladies. Hello, lady. And let us know you're here. This is Eyes of Indigo. Welcome to another episode on this channel with us. If you are a regular on the channel, welcome back. We're glad to see you, hear from you again. And if you are new to this channel, hi, and welcome to the show. We hope you have a lot of fun with us. Pretty sure you will.
We try. We work hard
Absolutely.
on that.
I'm Margot, and this is Iris. And what we do here, well, I shifted gears. Oh, we have a lot of fun doing this. But if you'd like to know more about the backgrounds and the credentials that Iris and I have that brought us to doing this show, please feel free to go back to episode 1 on YouTube and visit the YouTube channel that has episode 1 that will tell you in about 30 minutes of conversation what our credentials, education, experiences are that lead us to these fun weekly discussions that we love having and sharing with everybody as well. It's called The Prequel. You can also hear this show again in rerun and recording, and you can catch a backlog of audio recordings on Spotify and iTunes and stuff like that. We've been doing this. The show has been running for roughly a year and a half, so you can catch up on the beginning for several episodes, auditory, and catch into the spiel that way. We have fun episodes, we have advice episodes, and most of the time it's both. So, Iris, tonight's topic is...
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing I want to just add so people
Yes.
understand. If you're on Facebook, some people are coming to us from Facebook, some people are coming from YouTube. We see everybody's comments, but obviously if you're on YouTube, you're not going to see the Facebook and that sort of thing. So that's why I tend to share them. But please let us know you're here. Say hello. It's hard for us to see who's here unless you say something. So tonight's show is shadow work. Dark and light, positive and negative, happiness and sadness. One cannot exist without the other.
Indeed.
Join us for discussion on the meaning, purpose, and methods of shadow work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested in spiritual evolution, you gotta go through this step if you are in the 3D or ever have been in the 3D, which is 99.9% of us.
And I think too, I mean, one thing that throughout this whole process, and I'll probably say it again,
sure,
is remembering that because we're on this earth, we have an ego.
Yes.
And it is our ego that tells us that things are good or bad or appropriate or inappropriate. It's judgment. Think of ego as judgment.
Yes.
And so a lot of this shadow work talk will talk about, dealing with judgments and things that have been thrown your way and that sort of thing. And if you remember
acceptance, non-acceptance, validation, invalidation. Yeah.
Yeah, good and evil or good and bad are human constructs.
They're judgment terms.
Yeah, they're all human constructs. So when you realize that somebody who you think is bad, that there's no judgment on them when they die.
Right.
They'll work through whatever issues there were or be thanked for whatever service they provided, because a
To
lot
help
of
somebody
people,
else.
that do bad things are really serving other people.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have the ability to see the big picture.
Because it's not our business. It's not about us to babysit
Yes.
everyone else's issues.
But we think we are because ego.
Ego. Ego is in survival mode. We have to know what everybody else is doing in case it's a threat.
Yeah.
No, you
And I
don't.
think once
No,
I
you don't.
really embraced that helped me with a lot of my own work.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. I don't have to carry that because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't change it. It doesn't change what's actually going to happen with you for you.
Yeah.
A big aha came for me when I was teaching a workshop. I'll get my camera right here in just a second.
Yeah, I know you reminded me. I probably ought to do the same a little bit.
Because my head was like way down in the frame. When I did a workshop in Greensboro a few times, it was real popular, about empathy, identifying yourself as support and help for empaths, because they are so highly sensitive to everybody else's issues. There are specific things that an empath or an HSP, highly sensitive person, which is the mainstream psychology term for it, counseling term for it. HSPs and empaths are always getting sucked into other people's energy. Somebody gets sick, you get a headache. Somebody is angry or sad, and for no reason, just because you're near them, you're suddenly angry and sad too. Movies set you off. You can't go in a crowded Walmart because there's too many people and too much shit. Their energy, it's too much. And that's part of being an empath. So there are ways to protect yourself from those influxes. But what woke me up was doing the research for why do humans become empaths? They become empaths when in babyhood or childhood, their needs are not getting met on some level enough that they feel like they have to constantly monitor and read the environment so that they feel safe, to the point that they can get intuitive really fast and really strong ahead of their family or ahead of their age. Because what they're trying to do is read everyone so that they can get their needs met from that person or avoid confrontation, damage, conflict from that person by anticipating
you don't think that's all empaths, though, do you?
Yes. That has been my experience. There's no need to be an empath.
You don't think,
except for to entertain yourself. There's no need to be an empath.
What's the difference between an empath and a psychic? Yourself.
This is true. That's true. We got to. That would be a whole nother cool discussion. What's the difference between an empath and a psychic? Empaths tend to be psychic, from what I understand. An empath, a psychic is when you become an empath and then you become a psychic. All right, one leads to the other.
So that's why. But don't you think that some people? I mean, I know you've talked about, but like as a child, before they're really shaped, I've always been able to see ghosts. I've always been able to talk to the other side. I've always been able to.
That's a different definition than an intuitive. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of the word for it, but being perceptive of things beyond the veil is not the same as being intuitive towards other people's thoughts and feelings and predicting their behavior. There's a difference between sensing ghosts coming in the room and reading a human's thoughts and feelings and predicting what they're going to say and do, even days and weeks and months and years from now. That's a different skill set.
That's psychic, right?
Right, that's psychic.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. So what's the difference?
Is an umbrella term.
Yeah, and so that's why I was talking about with the empath versus a psychic. So don't you think empath is a
division? Is one of. Okay, so if we use the word, I'm thinking for clarity, I'm not 100% on this, but I'm thinking psychic is a umbrella term, and empath is one aspect of being a psychic, and intuitive is another aspect, and clairvoyant is another aspect, and clairsentient is another aspect. And there's different skill sets, kinetic, psychokinetic, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of divisions.
And some people have lots of mixtures of
yes,
that.
and you can have all those, but you can have some of those, or you can have all of those, any combination. So just because you're clairvoyant doesn't mean you're empathic. Okay. But they're both psychic, but they're both psychic abilities. Okay. Yeah, not everybody who's clairvoyant is empathic towards other people's feelings and gets triggered by sensitive, being a highly sensitive person. That would be me. I'm not an HSP. I'm not an empath. But I'm very, very, very intuitive.
Yeah, I mean, and because I realize that a lot of the things that I intuit are because I'm empathic.
Yes, it can
fit the definition.
It can assist that.
Yeah,
being empathic can assist that skill set. Yes, absolutely. Which is why empaths don't give it up easily. It's when we work on shadow work, it's one of the gifts.
Yeah.
That's one of the gifts that you can turn it into.
This also reminds me of there is no end all be all ultimate person that says this is what this label means and it's like, I shocked a few people the other day. There you go. I was in a meeting with some filmmakers, and I said, and they were talking about producers, and I said, well, yeah, and you throw that term around, nobody really knows what a producer does, as long as you're doing something with helping produce a movie, whether it's throwing money at it or organizing things. And a couple of them went, well, I don't know about, and I said, I have heard professionals say nobody knows what a producer does other than the different kinds of producers.
It's a catch-all term.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens in this area.
With the word psychic. Word psychic. It umbrellas a wide range of skills and abilities that go beyond the five senses.
And then there's so many offshoots
of the five senses too. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so many offshoots of that, and so sometimes it's hard to define, and I've told you a lot of times there are things that I know and that I do and that I have learned about, but I've never known what to call it. I don't know the vocabulary necessarily.
Right.
It would be like somebody who can fix a car because they know how to fine tune it and do all that stuff. But when you ask them, well,
are you an auto mechanic?
Yeah. And they're going, I couldn't tell you what one part. I just know that that's a hose that needs replacing. I don't know that it's the manifold or the whatever.
Or the carburetor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They got their own little terminology for it. Idiot Savant does that a lot. They're genius, but they just don't know the formal terms for stuff. That's an extreme version of what you're saying. But yeah, I remember having conversations when you and I first started to get to know each other really well, about 2 years ago or so? And you would describe these things, and I'm like, Iris, you're remote viewing. Do you realize this? And you're like, what's remote viewing?
I mean, I've heard people talk about it, but
like, that's cool. What is it? And I was like, oh, let me tell you, it's cool. It's really cool. Let's develop this. And we had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I remember you doing that. And what I found charming about that situation was, especially for you, is because you weren't limited by other people's definitions of what a certain skill set is supposed to have, black and white. You took it in nebulous directions and incorporated all kinds of other skills that were outside of that box. And outside of the box is where it's at.
Hey.
Yeah. That's where the real world and the real living starts happening, is when you get outside that box. So today we're talking about shadow work, and to tie that into what we just said, this is talking about hardcore getting outside of your box.
Mm.
All right. This is hardcore getting outside of the shadows inside of your box. And included with that is shadow work that you're dealing with now can come from this lifetime and this childhood, and it can come from past lives, former lives, damage, judgments, crap that you took on or was put on you in past lives. And tonight we're going to talk about shadow work, and our hope and our goal is to help our audience feel more comfortable with doing their own shadow work, because if you have a private discussion, or if you just have a discussion at all that's personal with any great teacher, great guru, anybody who does any kind of spiritual work on any kind of higher level, doesn't have to be super high, just higher and then super high. Every single one of them will tell you that they went through some kind of personal journey to address their shadow self, shadow side. They did shadow work. They might use a different term, but every single one of them had to deal with their demons, their damage, their baggage that they learned as a third dimensional, regular, workaday human world person, as a child, as a being inside this planet called Terra, also called Earth. So on this planet. So if you want to evolve spiritually, you're going to have to do this in some way, shape, or form. Tonight, we got a very simplified set of steps that you can consider, and Iris and I are going to discuss them and throw out examples as we go. It's very simple. It's really easier than some methods I've seen and heard over time. It's not as traumatic as you might think. It's not about, Iris, what is this not about?
It's not about, first of all, I want to say what it's not about. It's not about going deep and finding the evil seed that lurks within.
Damn, I was hoping we could go there. No, it's not. It's not.
It's
that.
not. There's nothing to, when we talk shadow self, it's like the shadow knows.
The shadow knows.
But shadows are portrayed in literature, movies, all these things that we see as being bad, what lurks in the shadows. and shadows,
we're taught to be
when
afraid of
we're
them.
talking about spiritual work, you know that everybody knows the yin and yang symbol with the little dot of this and the little dot of that, that. If you are embracing the light, then you have to embrace the dark.
Good time for the quote.
Yes.
Elizabeth April, January 10, on her YouTube channel, which I highly recommend. Elizabeth April said, and I quote, "You are a light walker, a starseed. So the more light you shine, the darker your shadow will cast."
Thank you.
So the brighter you are, the darker your shadow is. That shit is there.
Yeah.
Because you exist at all. It's there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That was Christina Lopez?
No, that was April Elizabeth.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's
that
April
was somebody
Elizabeth.
Different.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to pull that up.
This is not about demons. This is not about ghosts.
It's about you.
It's about you.
Yourself.
Or your inner self.
Your inner self. Yeah. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah, get it out. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing bad or evil. It's not like you're going to be summoning a demon when you do it. Nothing like that.
There's no magic involved. There's no ritualistic burning or bloodletting or any garbage.
Yeah, I mean,
those things are good for some stuff.
And what's
but
interesting,
not this.
I've seen some people be so dramatic about shadow work. Oh, shadow work! Ah! And you're like, take a chill pill. You know?
Yeah. Shadow work is about loving what is dark about you. It's actually about being happy and having fun and bringing it into the positive and putting light on it. It's not about and the dramatic, scary stuff. That's not even close.
Yeah.
It's not
But
even
don't let the hype about
connotations.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been seeing a lot more stuff about shadow work lately, and you don't want to let the connotations of it scare you away from it.
Which is exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop you from doing shadow work so that you won't so that you will not spiritually evolve.
Yeah.
That's literally why they do that.
Yeah. And
that's how important it is to do this work, guys. Yeah.
And it's really an acknowledgement of what you already know.
Yeah, this is a little bit into the unknown, but it's mostly stuff you're going to go, yeah, when I'm honest with myself.
Exactly.
That's true. And the way we're going to talk about it tonight, this is all private discussions with yourself. Mm-hmm. You can freely choose to share with other people if you'd like. That's actually extremely helpful. It helps the other person and it helps you. When you create safe space for sensitive discussions, people heal. People heal. So, but you don't have to. This can be done largely solo. So let's get started.
Let's see.
Let's start with a question. Deborah threw out a comment.
Okay. Everyone has a shadow. I do believe I'll be keeping a flashlight and extra batteries on me in a lit fanny pack.
Light that baby on fire.
Batteries and flashlights are safer than candles. I will say that.
Absolutely. Because we endorse bringing out your spiritual flashlight and shining that puppy everywhere it needs to be. Absolutely.
Look in all those corners.
All right.
All right.
I got my nuts. Here we go. All right. Okay. All right. What is a shadow? My definition is shadow is an unaccepted part of yourself that started or began when you experienced rejection of you for it. Iris, what would be an example of that?
If somebody told you, I mean, and this can start young.
Yeah, let's use childhood's classic. So let's use
childhood's classic, but it can be more recent. But if somebody says, you are just such a bad little girl. You're always doing stuff that's bad. Why can't you behave? You're bad.
Why can't you follow the rules?
Yeah. And you're thinking, oh, I'm so bad. I don't,
They think I'm bad. I must be bad.
Yeah. And and then you're trying to think of how to please them and how to make them happy. And, and I don't mean to be bad. I just, and then,
I'm just being honest. I didn't mean to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a small child. You don't know better. All right. Those are great examples. That's excellent examples. So here are 4 ways to spot shadow in yourself. All right. To make this easier, because we can throw out examples as we go, but here's 4 ways you can spot shadow. Highly recommend you try all 4. All right. The first one is classically called projection, or Iris, the word you found more clarifying was
mirroring, because a lot of people, I've always thought of, and a lot of people do, projection is when you don't want to own something, so you give it to somebody else. Like
I think that's displacement.
Displacement, but also I'm projecting that, like here's a situation where we were both at fault, but I'm going to say it's all her fault. It's not my fault. And I'm projecting that on her and putting all the reasons and all the responsibilities.
All right. So in this context, projection is meant to mean more like mirroring. In other words, how you project yourself, your perceptions of reality onto someone or something else, which is real similar to what you're describing.
Yeah.
And mirroring is an excellent visual word. I like that. It's a very tactile, very experiential word, much better. And to clarify that, we're using this to spot a shadow in yourself. So, what labels or values or names do you put on other people that you don't like? Such as,
she's such a bitch.
She's such a bitch. You're so, that person is mean. That person is stupid. That person is selfish. That person is got road rage. That person takes up all the time or takes up all the energy.
That person can't drive.
That person can't drive. This person always cuts me off in the conversation. I think that person is racist.
They always criticize me.
Yeah, that person is always criticizing me. I think that person is that other person is on a power trip. I think that so-and-so is a lousy mother. I think so-and-so is a lousy boss. I think the lady that I was learning this from, by the way, Christina Lopez on YouTube. This is a summary of her presentation of it. She used the example of she saw her father as being cold and emotionless emotionless and with walls up. And then as an adult, she realized that her teenage self was acting cold and had walls up and was being emotionless around her, especially around her family. Why is a whole nother question. But she was mirroring onto her dad what was actually being seen as unacceptable in herself, right? Remember, shadows are stuff that's unacceptable. So what labels and values do you put on other people that you disapprove of, that you don't like? Your parents are a good practice place to start for that, all right? Because, yeah, we hit them all the time. Number 2, another way to spot a shadow is emotional triggers. Emotional triggers show your inner wounds, where you've been wounded. Pay attention to things that emotionally trigger you, such as, Iris, I'm going to throw out an example and see if you can think of another good one too. An emotional trigger might be you go to a party with your mate and your mate starts talking to an attractive person and they're laughing and giggling and you can see it, and it triggers jealousy in you and you start getting more upset and you start getting angry. Well, when you go over there and grab your mate by the arm and jerk them away and slap them around the head and then start screaming at them that it's time to leave, that's letting your shadow self take over. And that is what we're trying to heal and embrace and release and reduce. So when an emotional trigger shows up, to spot it, not judge it, but just spot it, there's 3 questions. Why am I feeling this? I'm feeling something. Why am I feeling it? What am I really afraid of? In this example, this person is afraid of losing their partner, maybe being judged as less attractive, maybe afraid of being alone, things like that. And the third thing to observe on emotional triggers is what situation started the trigger that is related to it. Iris, what's another good example of an emotional trigger?
I'll give a personal one. I was in a situation where I was working in a building where I was managing tenants and things like that. And there was this one guy that I was trying to have a conversation with, but stress the rules. And I was trying to be diplomatic, and he had to take care of something downstairs. So we were on the elevator together, and I'm talking to him and I'm trying to be frank. And I'm going, yeah, that's great, but you really can't do this or this. It's not allowed and it could lead to danger, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, just brushing me off, ignoring me. And he walks forward, and oh no, at one point when I got on the elevator, I went, damn it, so and so, and I hit the button, kind of hard. And I said, I'm trying to explain, Well, then he got upset. And it was like, as soon as we got off the elevator, and I'm like, look, can we just please talk? Because he kept walking away from me. And he turned around and got right up. I mean, we were nose to nose.
Oh.
And I was standing there, and in my mind, I'm going, keep it cool. You don't want him to get pissed off. You don't, this is not. But he was like bristling up and wanting to show me he was the dominant one,
Yeah.
And I just kept it cool. And I said, and I was like,
he got triggered too.
He got triggered too.
Yeah.
And somebody else came in and said, what's going on? And they're going, man, telling the guy, man, you need to back down. Later, I found out I had turned completely, all the color had drained from my face. And that I looked like I was in shock. And after that, I felt like I was just going to collapse.
Wow.
And I can go back to several different things that just all came together at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I was like,
overwhelming.
Yeah, I did not realize until it was over how much it impacted me.
You were already in fight or flight mode. You're already going into defense mode, and you were starting to go into shock.
Yeah.
You were starting to go into shock. You can see how some people pass out.
Yes.
Under those high conditions. That's why they just completely go into shock and pass out. Yeah, he got emotionally triggered. He apparently really had issues with a female telling him what to do.
An authority.
An authority figure telling him what to do. So, yeah, that would be showing his inner wounds. Yeah, emotional trigger shows his inner wound. Obviously, somebody lorded that over him and used it against him, made him feel bad about it. And he was trying to project that onto you. He was mirroring it. He was mirroring it on you. What he disapproved of was bouncing off of you in his eyes.
And what was interesting is he claims he's a guru on anger management and and respect for women and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay. Seriously.
All right. So another aspect is always thank your emotional triggers because they're going to show you where your weak spots are. Similar phrase that I use is your enemies are your greatest teachers.
Yeah.
Anybody that pisses you off, scares you, annoys you, ticks you off, they are your greatest teachers because they are showing you what you cannot handle. And it gives you an opportunity to start learning to handle it. So, yeah. He should have said thank you. Because you showed him, dude, you got holes in your little suit there. You might want to tuck that back.
And knowing what I know now, I probably would have. But at the time,
you were going into shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were going into shock. That was not time to be charming or clever. Yeah, you were going into survival mode. Which, good. I'm glad somebody told him to back down because he was, anyway. All right, so get back here.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so those are two ways to spot a shadow. Mirrors, when you say something nasty or judgmental about someone else, that's a mirror. Emotional triggers, when a situation makes you emotionally react. Why am I feeling this and what am I really afraid of? Needs to be your next coping mechanism to come up in your head. And the third way to spot a shadow is called notice repeating patterns. When a situation or a type of person keeps coming back up in your life and you recognize it over and over repeatedly, and what is repeated? I would say at least 3 times in your life. If it's happened a minimum of 3 times in your life, that's a repeating pattern. If it's happened twice, that's a different kind of continuity. But if it's happened 3 times or more, then that's an emotional and a power validation, invalidation exchange that you've turned into a shadow. somewhere in your life.
People, it can be people, it can be situations, it can be conditions. Why am I always broke? Every time I get my money built up, bam, it's gone. Or
why am I always?
Yeah.
Why am I always? Why is this always? Why does this always happen? Yes, those are catchphrases. Why am I always broke? Why do I always get sick? Why
do I always end up with this type of boss? Why do I always
end up
have
with
this kind of person in my life, or this kind of boyfriend, or that?
This kind of boyfriend, yeah. Why do all the freaks tell me their problems standing in the grocery line?
Yeah.
There's, what are those repeating patterns? Those repeating patterns are trying to tell you that you got a shadow in that aspect. All right. So the fourth way to spot a shadow is a journaling technique, a writing technique. And you can type or you can write. It doesn't matter, computers or paper, whatever. Pick your medium. It's called introspection. And it's not as scary as it might sound. You look inside yourself and you ask 3 questions, and it's wise to take several days or even several weeks to cover these 3 questions, because stuff will pop up along the way as life happens around you and with you. The 3 questions are, what parts of myself do I dislike? Question number 2, what parts of myself do I judge? And question number 3, what parts of myself do I fear? I kind of like that question. But what parts of myself do I dislike, do I judge, and do I fear? And these are excellent journaling questions. Literally, you can start making lists. You don't have to explain. It's not an and why question. No, it's just a statement of fact. What parts of myself do I dislike? I can answer some of these just to be forthcoming. For the sake of conversation here, what part of myself do I dislike? I'm not happy with my body weight. All right, I dislike what the weight and shape of my body. What do I judge about myself? I judge how fat I am.
I was thinking the same thing about myself when you were saying this.
I judge how fat I am. I also tend to judge how smart I think I am or am not in any one situation. Intellectualism had a high, and this is going to play in later, had a high premium in my family. And I keep that in mind for future reference in just a few minutes. But I'm constantly judging about how smart do I seem or don't seem. Do I seem smart? Do I seem stupid? All right, another one, what part of myself do I fear? I've already identified a long time ago that I have a fear of success. The potential for success is tremendous. I have skill sets for all kinds of industries and services that make other people millions of dollars. I haven't pursued it. And I have a fear of success. I have a fear of the responsibility attached to that success. So I've limited my success to big fish in a small pond. And that's how I would answer just off the top of my head in just a couple of seconds. Introspection. Now, if you gave me a few weeks and a notepad, I'd probably come up with a lot more. Iris, is there anything you want to add to introspection?
No, just looking inside. I mean, and all of this is being honest with yourself.
Yes.
I mean, you can't pretend at this. It's not going to do you any good if you're just pretending.
This is all self-talk. This is all personal notes. Absolutely. Or like I said, you can share with a very intimate friend.
And one of the first things I would ask, if you find yourself diverting and you're going, oh, I want to do this. And you sit down and you go, well, what do I fear? Well, I don't know that I fear anything about it. And you start, that is telling you that you're
trying to get away from it.
And ask yourself, why am I afraid to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that fear come from?
Think of it as like a therapy session. You go into the therapist's office, sit down, the therapist says, shall we start? and the client goes, well, can we turn down the temperature in the room a little bit? It's a little hot. I want to take off my shoes. Do you mind if I sit on the blue chair instead of the red chair? This isn't as soft as I thought it was. Can I try sitting over there? That's
diversion.
Yeah. You're trying to get away from talking about the real thing.
And if you do that thing of, why does this scare me? Sometimes you got to do a little work before you can do the work.
Yes.
What does this scare
So
me?
back
Whose
up.
voice is in your head? That's another question that I find is good.
Yeah.
Whose voice is in your head? Who's telling you not to do this?
That's the inner critic or the judge that we're going to talk about in these 5 tips. Yes, that self-talk, that inner judge that's telling you bullshit and negativity. Hot tip that I've told every single client all my life in my intuitive life coaching, in my professional life coaching, as a school teacher, as a Reiki master, as a healer, all kinds of things. Anything negative you hear in your head is not spiritually guided. It is not from the divine, God, angels, whatever word you want to use. If it's in negative wording, negative intention, it is not divine. Never. For example, if a guide thinks you should improve your diet, a guide thinks you should stop eating fried sugar, deep fried foods, fast foods, and sugar.
Fried sugar? That's
fried sugar's even better, baby. Now we're talking donuts. Sign me up. Dip it in chocolate, baby. I'm repeating conversations that I've had. If they want you to stop eating that stuff, they will not say, stop eating fried and sugar. That's not what they'll say. They'll say, you need to learn how to enjoy fruits and vegetables. You need to learn how to enjoy fresher, cleaner foods like white meats and salmons and fishes and vegetables and greens and fruits, and learn how to cook those things. And here's the smell of cinnamon. Here's the smell of apple. Here's the sweet taste of one type of carrot. Here's a more earthy, crunchy variety of another carrot. Look at all the ways you can cook a potato. Look at all the ways you can cook a fish. Isn't that a pretty color? With more color, the better. We want you to have more color. And this is what they say. They don't say, stop eating sugar. Don't eat fast food. It's going to kill you. You're going to get fat. It's rah, rah. They don't talk like that. They say, go look at all the pretty food. Isn't that nice? Woo, you like sweet stuff? Cool. Let's talk about fruit. And they get very, very positive. You will never, 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 ever, ironic as it is for me to say that, you will never hear no, not, never from a divine guide. They will tell you avoid. Okay, so you don't want me to eat sugar and fried food. We're telling you you can choose to avoid those things. They won't say don't do it. They'll say you can choose to avoid it. You can choose something else. All right. They always do it positive. So the second you hear negativity, that's your shadow self / negative side of your ego pushing your buttons, baby, which means you're giving up your personal power.
And sometimes those
something that's in your head.
It's in your head, and sometimes somebody planted it there, and it's become part of your shadow.
And that is called gaslighting. That is manipulation. When you give somebody a trigger on purpose, the word for it is gaslighting. Go look it up. But a more common word is, it's a very sophisticated form of manipulation. To give somebody triggers and shadows on purpose is evil. It's really cool. It's genius, diabolical, and I admire it for that. But don't do it. It's not nice. It avoids being nice. All right. So the purpose of doing shadow work, the goal is always, always integration. You're trying to accept, not reject, not shut down, not stop your shadow self. It's going to exist. It's a part of you. You're a light worker. Like Iris said, yin yang, the dark and the light both need to be there. So we're not trying to get rid of the dark. All right. That would be the yin side, the dark side, the feminine
You're
side.
accepting yourself.
You're
This is
accepting
part of you that you have slammed down.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. What Iris is saying. We have been trained to reject half of what we are, both humanly and spiritually. So this is a healing for that. That's really not that hard to do if you just pay attention to the steps. So, and give it a little effort. So the goal is integration, to bring that back, to get you back into a balance of your light and dark self. The dark does not go away. You're not rejecting the darkness. You love your shadow and shine light on it. You already have your positive, happy self. Maybe you're a light worker. Maybe you're a starseed. Maybe you're just a really positive, go-getter kind of person. We call that stuff light, L-I-G-H-T. And you can shine that positivity and love and accept, and it's key word, accept, and validate that your shadow side and your shadow self. You're only going to acknowledge it, not judge it, but accept it and go, all right, and that's a part of salty me too. All right. A little bit of sassy's coming through there. It can be a smaller part of yourself. You can be predominantly positive and light, but your shadow self is there to anchor you, and it has gifts, which Iris immediately jumped to in the conversation, which was really awesome. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. There's perks to shadow work, not just, I got to think about what sucks in my head. Yes, you do, but there's more. There's a perk on the backside.
Wait, there's more.
Sell it, baby.
This shadow work can be yours for the easy price of a little integration and introspection. But wait, there's more.
More. By Rumco. No, by Godco. Gaiaco. There you
By
go.
God and Company.
Seeing the boys. Whatever deity you prefer to talk to, go for it. They will support you. And we're going to actually talk about that in just a second. So there are 5 basic tips for doing shadow work. 5 different methods you can use. First, and some of these are hot tips. The very first one is actually an overarching hot tip of a strong recommendation. Do not antagonize the shadow.
Don't poke the bear.
Do not poke the bear. Okay? Don't go looking for your shadows. Set yourself up to be jealous, angry, mad, pissed off, insulted, rejected, invalidated. No, don't do that. Life will bring it to you. Just be patient. But you don't antagonize the shadow. Once a shadow shows up, you recognize it, you see it, emotional triggers, introspection, whatever. When you identify a shadow, you don't argue with it. You don't tell it, oh, that's true. That's what sucks about me. I swear, I wish me and my sister had never said that. Blah, 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 blah. No. Don't fight with it. Don't start hashing on it and chewing on it and don't do that. Instead, love it with self-acceptance. This is a part of what you are. Whether you like it or not, little sister, it's part of what you are. Avoid giving shadow your energy, your power. It has its own power, which we're going to talk about because it has gifts and stuff in it. It doesn't need more. It's not necessary. It can be played against you. Iris just wisely brought that up a minute ago. All right. Don't set yourself up for being played.
Yeah.
Do not let your shadows run away with you and tell you what to do. Don't fight with them. So don't antagonize shadows. Don't go looking for them. Number 2 in the tips, observe. We touched on this one. So Iris, let's flesh this one out. Observe your shadows without judgments. What are some words for that? Observing, what is that voice inside?
Well, I mean, like in other words, don't go, oh, I hate when I do this, or I hate when I do that, or oh, I'm doing that again, and
I'm so stupid.
Yeah, it's just, it's recognizing, the resentments and
start resenting yourself.
Resentments and regrets.
Yes.
I'm such a bad person. I can't believe I did that. I need to be nicer to the people who cut me off in traffic or whatever.
It
And
doesn't
the
matter
thing
if you make a
is,
mistake twice, 3 times, 3,000 times. You don't hammer yourself for it ever.
you recognize, okay, I did that. I'm glad that
How
I've been
human is
shown it.
I?
Yeah, I'm only human, and sometimes you can take that and go, I am so glad that's been pointed out to me at a time where I can understand it and change future behaviors.
Yes.
I can let that go. I don't have to be that way anymore. Thank you for showing that to me. Off it goes, and you do your thing and you practice the new behavior.
Absolutely. Observing your shadows is always, always an immediate opportunity to do a little shadow work in the moment. Embrace it with love and light. We'll talk about what is actually doing that. We'll talk about it more specifically, actions you can take, what is actionable. There is a really good book about how to deal with our biggest personal, I'd say, mental demon. And it's a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. You can see the cover of it here, The Four Agreements. It's called a Toltec wisdom book. It's a very short, very concise, very brief and clear book. It's super easy to read. And if you've read it before, especially if you've read it years ago, read it again. It's going to mean something entirely different to you year by year. So if it's been years, you're really going to get something different out of it this time. It reads that way. He wrote it that way. He's a shaman. Don Miguel Ruiz is an internationally known shaman and former medical doctor, surgeon, blah, 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 blah. Really cool guy. His adult sons are now writing sequels to that book, and they're good to have too. But seriously, read The Four Agreements and you will get practical how-to, day-to-day, second-to-second, minute-to-minute, usable, simple, powerful ways to deal with your inner judge, your inner critic that's always going me, and criticizing
you. And it's like $6 on Amazon.
I mean, yeah, it's cheap. I've seen it in like thrift stores on the 50-cent shelf and the dollar shelf because people didn't realize what they had. People trade that book all the time. Give it to a friend as a gift, and it will change their life. It literally is so relatable, and he literally gives you practical, second-by-second, day-to-day methods and tricks to identify your judge and say, it's okay, sweetie, calm down. We got this. We don't need to criticize. Zip it, zip it, zip, zip. No more. And have a sense of humor about it. That's one way. That's one of Iris's favorite ways.
I love it.
And I love it. I love it. So, and let's see. All right. So the third tip I want to bring to you is called past life regression. And this is a little more complex, just a little. And it's accessing past life memories to identify situations, times, spots when shadows were started. And you can view them, love them, and integrate them into what you are now. Some of your shadows will have started from past lives. A classic example is phobias: fear of dark, fear of strangers, fear of heights, fear
I should also point out
nail clippers.
Science has proven that that when we have traumatic events in our lives, they are embedded in our genes. And so think about that when you think about how your DNA is passed on. You can also inherit things from your ancestors.
Yeah. All those people that are proud that their family was in the American Revolutionary War and they call themselves DARs and Daughters of the American Revolution. Girl, you bragging about your DNA damage that you are still coping with. All right. And yeah, slave people that are ancestors that are descendants of slaves. That's some damage to deal with as well. But let's remember, almost every single human group on the planet has been subject to slavery in history. So we all have to deal with that, especially right now, which is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
So back to here.
In case you didn't know it.
In case you didn't know it yet. You're living in walking slavery. So we all are. And so past life regression, specifically dealing with shadows that were put on you through in the past, and you learn to reject it inside. You feel like it invalidates you. All right. The next one, the fourth tip, childhood review. This is analyzing damage that happened in this life. Orphan Annie. Now, to do a child review is a little more practical. The advice that Christina Lopez gave for this step was journaling. Journaling, again, is really useful. Again, you can type, you can write, you can speak, whatever works for you. 3 questions to answer in this journaling of a childhood review to find shadows. Again, we're just observing them. We're not judging them. We're just identifying them. First childhood review question. Was I completely accepted in my childhood? Childhood would be, I'd say, anywhere under the age of 15, down to babyhood, through babyhood. Number 2, childhood review. What was expected of me? Remember, we're making lists. We're not explaining
Children should
why.
be seen and not heard.
That's what our parents and our grandparents from our which would be great grandparents to some of our listeners. Yes, that's the bullshit that they had to put up with. But you're making lists of answers. You're not explaining them. You're not justifying them. You're not saying yeah, but no. You're making statements. This is a private list conversation with yourself. All right. What was expected of me? Number 3, what behaviors and emotions were judged by my parents? If you didn't live with your parents, your major caretakers, your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, whoever raised you. What behaviors and emotions were judged by your parents? Iris, what's some examples of some behaviors and emotions that parents might make a child feel judged over? Even when they don't mean to.
Don't be so dramatic.
Oh my God, my sister heard that one 24/7. Stop being so dramatic. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't be an alarmist was another one that was bounced around my house.
Quit being so sassy or back talking or
stop back talking me. Yeah. Don't be such a baby.
When will you ever grow up? Would you stop being a baby? You know, and it's like, and then, no, you're not old enough for that.
Okay, can you tell that we're doing shadow work as we do this show? Iris, you're triggering me, baby. Those are exact words that I heard.
You're not old enough. You're too old to be that way.
Right. At your age.
Act your age instead of your shoe size.
Guess what, 40-year-old mom? You're not acting your age either. You're panicking.
Heaven forbid we do act our age.
Exactly.
What was your perception of somebody that's our age now of how they're supposed to be acting? Oh,
exactly. Depends on what kind. Truth, baby. Truth. I got stoned.
I would act like a teenager.
Look at all that. Absolutely. All right. So these are the kinds of emotions and behaviors.
Did it make you lose something?
Yeah. One of my rocks went flying down. Find it.
She's throwing rocks, folks. Her shadow self is throwing rocks at her.
It is. It's panicking. Good. It should be. So, behaviors. Stop being smart mouth. Stop acting like you know everything.
Yes.
I actually heard that a lot. You think you know everything, shut your damn mouth. Shut up. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. You think you know everything, go away.
You're old enough for your wants not to hurt you.
You think you know better and you don't.
Yeah.
I heard that one a lot too. What was it? You're too big for your britches. And I heard a lot of these things from peers, from neighborhood kids that I thought were my friends.
Ooh.
You're too big for your britches. You think you know everything. We didn't know the word stay in your lane yet, but that's basically what they were saying. They did not like an intellectual person telling them what to do. And if you look at it from an adult perspective, they were mirroring onto me what they were resenting being told from other people. They found an opportunity to spew that shit at me because somebody had spewed that shit at them. And they saw the power struggle dynamic that it created. So they were trying to create that power dynamic with me by shame, we're all trying to shame each other, invalidate each other, not accept each other, which brings us back to where we're at. We all created shadows. Somebody put a shadow on them. They were trying to put a shadow on me. And it worked to an extent. So childhood review, was I completely accepted? No. What was expected of me? To act like a baby until I was the youngest in my family. I was supposed to act like a baby until it wasn't convenient. And then I had to act like a complete adult, even if I was 5 years old. And what behaviors and emotions were judged by parents? Talking and thinking above my pay grade was not accepted. That was judged. Talking and thinking above my parents' pay grade. That really freaked them out. So those are a childhood review. Again, those kind of questions can take days, hours, weeks, depending on how long you want to dwell on it. Or you can revisit it when you realize you've been triggered and use it as a journaling, as another method to brainstorm something in safe space so that your ego doesn't take over.
How much more do we have to go through? Quite a bit? Or
Nope. I am actually probably about another 25%.
Okay, so because
I can shorten it. Yeah,
we're
I can
at 10:34 now, and I didn't know if maybe, I could show some of the images.
That's about to happen.
And then, or we can save them and do that next week.
Those images are so darn good. I really want to bring them in if you don't mind.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
I'm fine either way.
All right. Let me do number 5 out of these 5 tips.
Okay.
Number 5 is the big cookie. But wait, there's more. You can retrieve your gifts, discover related talents and untapped potential that are associated to your shadow self. And because you've been rejecting and unaccepting of your shadow self, you didn't know you could do that. You didn't know you had that talent, that gift. So that is the perk of having a shadow self, is you got of gifts and talents associated to your shadow self, that once you have a healthy relationship with your shadow self and that baggage, and don't reject it and just integrate it with yourself as, hey, this is a part of me, warts and all. And warts aren't so darn bad because even cute little froggies have them. And even cholo dogs in Mexico have them. They're all cute. It's cool. Once you hit that, there's more beyond it. You're going to start seeing gifts. Now, how do you do that? How do you get those gifts? There are 2 popular ways to access, what are my shadow self gifts? What are my shadow work gifts? There's 2 popular ways. One is, same thing, go back to your journal on a fresh page and start brainstorming the answer to, and brainstorm means to write down anything, regardless of how weird or unusual or outlandish it might seem, because this is a private conversation with
And
you.
also, what happens with brainstorming, you're getting the clutter out of your brain so the real stuff can come out.
Yes, yes, you're flushing out the stuff. Answer this question in a brainstorm in your journal. What would I do with my life if I were not afraid of anything? Money's not an issue. Time's not an issue. Age is not an issue. Who I know is not an issue. My education, none of that is an issue. Those are just fears. Those limitations are just fears. What would you just brainstorm? What would I do with my life if I were not afraid? You're going to start seeing gifts. It's going to start coming up. The second way, shamanic journeying. Some of you are familiar with this term, shamanic journeying. You can literally go out in the ethers with your spirit guides. I highly recommend that you hire a shaman who is experienced and highly reputable, because you don't want to go out there and not be able to get back into your body because you didn't know, one, that you need to, two, how to do it. Let a shaman do it for you, with you, that comes recommended, not a fly-by-night person. Get somebody recommended. It's fun and it's very relaxing. Your shaman person can go out there, talk to your spirit guides from this life and past lives and your ancestry, and find out what gifts and talents you have, and come back and report. And you can put them in your journal and put that with the list of things I want to do and experience and grow and accelerate and learn about, blah, 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 blah. And it's really cool what they literally go out there and look for. What are her shadow work gifts? Now, calling on your higher guides. This is intention work, which is often done as a meditation technique. However, it can be done in other ways too. But literally in meditation, you're telling your guides, or my favorite, your higher self. Okay? You're asking your higher self to cast light on whatever shadow you've just found, or whatever shadow you're writing about in your book.
Deborah, this is when you get your flashlight out of your fanny pack. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. This is a spiritual flashlight time. Ask them to cast light on the shadow and help make it smaller and thus less powerful over you. All right. For those of you that like doing energy work, this is a first chakra issue. You store your shadow work, damage from your family, from your ancestors, past lives. All that stuff is stored in your first chakra. Your first chakra is, you're sitting on it. It's your private parts. It's your ass. Okay.
So when somebody says you have a stick up your ass, it could very well be. It could very well be shadow.
It's right there on your perineum. That's the wall in between where you pee and where you poop. Okay. It's the wall in between. Okay. That's literally where you, and first chakra is that. Plus I know it's a crazy place to be. But first chakra is also your legs, knees, calves, and feet. It's the everything on down. So it's from the perineum, your pelvic floor, all the way down through your legs and feet. It's your foundation. Yes. So people that do energy work, that's a first chakra thing. And a quote that I found useful that was said by, if you want to put her name up, that I took these notes from, Christina Lopez on YouTube.
Yeah, I put it up earlier. I'll do it again.
Okay, thank you. She had two quotes that you might want to use to address your guides to help. One is, my intention is to heal these shadow aspects that I've written in my journal, or we heal and bring light to this shadow. Real concise.
Not healed.
Exactly. Not I want to, not I will, because that pushes it into the future. It is, I heal right now. Make it an active verb right now. I heal this, or even past tense, this is healed. So, all right, enough of that.
Yeah, I gotta get rid
on to the fun stuff. Iris and I have, and mostly Iris, because she's just so damn good at it.
Oh, God.
Have used humor to embrace our shadow selves. Iris, tell us about your little journey into finding these cool little things.
It just was. I have the talent of typing in the right search words. that.
Yes, you do. Yes,
And
you do.
so these just hit me so funny. The tags are labels for the people. So the woman is love and light only people. You know, those people that are always like, I'm just all full of love and light.
Tree hugging fairy time.
Yeah. But then me trying to push to embrace your darkness was like,
He's pushing him into a cabinet full of little sharp-toothed demons with red eyes and black skin.
I love it. Yeah. This one, me and my shadow self deciding how we're going to react to some bullshit. And it's a guy in his shadow walking through, you know, this demonic looking shadow. But again, it's not meant, you know, don't think of it as scary. Just embrace it.
That's just because it's popular to do that. Yeah, but him and his shadow are obviously deep in conversation, philosophically walking across a meadow. Yes. You know? How we're going to react. All right. So this is a meme for somebody who's got shadows related to money and sex.
Yes. So you've got Miss Piggy looking at herself in a hood, you know,
Black
and
hood.
the light worker me is love and light. And the shadow me is like money and dicks. And that's okay. You can embrace
those things are
that.
all okay. Both of them are. Miss Piggy is the Bob. And now we got Whoopi Goldberg as the sister psychic in the movie Ghost.
Yes, and she's going, has not done shadow work, meditated, or paid attention to signs from the universe for weeks. My guides, you in danger, girl.
You in danger, girl. Yup.
And this is, I think it's Skeletor from
a cartoon from the 80s.
When you finally learn to accept your shadow self, and Skeletor says, I am perfect, whole, and complete, just as I am.
Young work done. And he was, if you got to know, Skeletor was a very insecure, weird character.
Yeah.
He was funny. And this is a good one.
Darth Vader. Okay, so when your shadow side has come out of the trenches and you weren't prepared for it, who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
It's going to take control if you're not prepared.
It's a glorious picture of Darth Vader. Who's your daddy? and that's true. When your shadow side comes out and starts kicking ass and taking names, like the guy that flipped, the anger management guru that flipped out on Iris and got up in her face.
Yeah.
That's his shadow self saying, who's your daddy, and jerking him around by the nuts. Big time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Boy, the man was practically a eunuch after that conversation. But anyway.
And I love this one. When you use your demons to your advantage. So when you know you got some bad stuff, you know, hey, I'm floating in the air. I'm going to use it to my advantage. This guy is in The Exorcist, standing on top of Reagan, who's floating in the air, painting his walls.
He's painting, he's painting the beadboard around the top of the ceiling. Yep. And the people are down, the priest is down below.
The power of God compels you. You know, no, don't make her come down yet.
Got a couple more feet to paint. He's roller painting, standing on her little belly.
And then we have Peter Pan. Remember when he used soap or something on the bottom of his foot trying to get his shadow to stick? When you realize you have to start working on integrating your shadow.
Do you guys remember, back up for a second on that one, Peter Pan? Do you remember at the beginning of the top of the show, we were talking about how they didn't want us to get acquainted with our shadow because that is a spiritual development path and journey? Look at what happened to the iconic Peter Pan. His shadow was not even attached, and he was trying to get it back, and it was not working.
No.
What is that? Yeah, there's reveals all around us, subtle and overt. That one's kind of subtle.
Yeah.
But it's there. So anyway.
So this is that famous Hannibal Lecter's in his dungeony cell. And it's when you're carefully negotiating with your shadow self in order to become a unified whole. And quid pro quo. I tell you things, you tell me things.
And that is good advice, actually. You do care at the beginning. You do carefully negotiate with your shadow self because you do not want to antagonize the shadow. Never antagonize the shadow. So yes, you're carefully negotiating / observe only without judgment. Yeah.
And then this one, nice, fresh-looking girl. How's your shadow work going? And then this girl who looks like she's been hit by a truck and she's smoking a cigarette. And she's, oh, it's going. That's for sure.
Her shadow self has kicked her ass.
Yes, and so it's like, but if you embrace it and you do it in a way that you're recognizing and not abusing yourself for it, you can get through it without.
Absolutely. You can require and execute with grace and ease.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the crazy shit fest that you have in cartoons. And it doesn't have to be scary because it's not. If you can't tell, it can be highly amusing.
Yes.
When you notice what's fucked up about yourself.
And when you can say, yeah, I did that.
Because in the big scheme of things, you chose those journeys, you chose those contracts, you chose those relationships so that you could learn and grow from them. Guess what learning and growing is also called? Shadow work. That's another word for it, which is not condoned in our society until lately. Spiritual evolution is highly recommended. It is the only way to survive into the 4th and 5th dimension. And we're here to help you laugh your way all the way to it successfully. So we have burnt up a lot of time. Thank you, everyone that has stuck with us to the end. We love you. Bless you. I hope you enjoyed this. Next
week, we're doing resentments, regrets, and rejections. Yes,
we're going to expand on those
R's. The 3 R's that can keep you from progressing.
Absolutely.
How to not deal reading, with writing, and arithmetic. It's
these 3 R's. Yeah. Trust me, we're going to make fun of them and make them manageable.
Yes. Yes. So, thank you again for sticking with us. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you at this time next week.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details at www.facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo. Show is copyrighted 2022 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. All rights reserved.